Hey y'all, welcome back to P Squared Sips&Convo with Pamela Guillory Lee
and Paulette Afro-Angel Abinomo.
And today we're going to be talking about being Afro-Latina in America. We have our beautiful guest, Martha Lopez-Fowler. I'm going to let her introduce herself and take it away, Martha.
Yes, Martha Lopez-Fowler, psychotherapist. Yes. Call me if you need a session. You know, I'm your girl.
Alrighty, so we're going to just go ahead and jump right into it, guys. So this is a topic that we love to talk amongst ourselves because our sister friend here is a proud Afro-Latino. And I'm glad that we're doing this podcast because we definitely want to shed light on what it is to be Afro-Latino. And so we're glad that we have the opportunity to have our friend here to expound more into that. So you out there can have more knowledge of what it is to be Afro-Latino, and you can also spread that knowledge to your friends and your family. So this is going to be a great informative podcast. Leave comments if you want to know more about being Afro-Latino, because we can do other podcasts regarding this topic. So go ahead and take it away, Ms. Lopez. First, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
What do you identify yourself as, you being here in America? Because you are an American-born citizen.
Yes, I am. I do identify myself as a black woman, first and foremost, because that's what people see. That's what I am. It is what it is. But when people do ask me, once they hear my last name, I do explain to them that my parents, my cousins, my aunts, everybody that's here, they're directly from Peru, came here years ago. But I do identify myself as a black woman and an Afro-Latina.
Okay.
Can you explain what Afro-Latina is?
So Afro-Latina is a person who is black, but their ethnicity is from Latin America.
Okay. Their ethnicity.
The ethnicity.
Say the words right, Paulette. Okay. All right. So, shedding light about your experience, you being Afro-Latino, born in America, and you are from your family's from what country?
Peru.
And you are first generation
Yes, I am.
Peruvian here in America.
Yes.
Okay.
So tell us about that experience.
I know growing up when I was a kid, of course, I did not understand the term Afro-Latina growing up. I just knew that I grew up in a Spanish-speaking household. And so when I started going to school and I would see other Spanish-speaking children, they didn't look like me. So I was a little confused at first. But then as my mom started teaching me about our culture and stuff and just seeing my other family members the same skin tone as I am or darker, I started to understand, okay, there's a lot of black people that are in Latin America. We just don't have a lot of them here in Texas. So therefore, I didn't see a lot of people like myself in my classrooms or interacting with other kids around my age.
Interesting. So do you feel, especially with your experience growing up and not seeing that representation, do you feel like being Afro-Latino is underrepresented? What's the word?
Underrepresented?
Y'all, I have not been drinking that much. Sometimes I tie my words. I'm just sleepy. I'm so sorry. But yeah, do you feel like you guys are not being represented in the right light as far as the media is concerned?
Absolutely. Okay. Because a lot of times when you see telenovelas, when you see movies about Latin families and all that stuff, you don't see a lot of people like me in those movies.
Telemundo.
Yeah, or anything. Period. Yeah. There's a lot of movies that talk about the Latin families. Like there's a movie called Mi Familia. And it's a really good movie. No shade or anything. But the movie is about, of course, Mexicans coming across the border and coming to California. And I know it's supposed to be based on their family, and I get it. But a lot of those movies that actually show Latin people do not have us in it. They just don't. So, not when it's about the story of the Latin community.
But they don't really have a lot of stories about the Afro-Latino.
They don't.
I remember growing up, I was taking a Spanish class in 3rd grade. And I remember after school, they used to make us watch different television shows so we could work on our Spanish. So it was one particular show called Carousel. Remember? And they had that one black boy in there. And I knew what Negro meant. Negro be running away and stuff. So I was like, hold up. Why they keep running every time the little dark boy come on the playground? And they're like, ooh, I need to wash ye and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, hold up.
Yeah.
Like bad representation. And
Yeah.
I was like, why are they treating this black boy? He's speaking Spanish just like them. So why are they treating him in such a negative light? But I always thought that was weird.
But that's the same as colorism. So it crosses all nationalities, all continents. I mean, colorism is real.
It's real. It exists.
To
He was
cross.
like the only black boy in the show. And he just got verbally abused. You know,
But yeah, you're right. They don't have any Afro-Latino stories or movies that they make about us. They just don't. So the people who are actors that are Afro-Latinos, they're playing African-American parts in movies. That's what you see, and that's just what it is.
It's that misrepresentation of the Afro-Latino community in the media. Yes.
Like we just don't exist. Even though some people know that we do exist, but not mainstream. As mainstream as you're going to get with that is basically Major League Baseball.
oh yeah, that's true.
Major League Baseball, there's a whole lot of us that play baseball, but a lot of times when people try to ask me certain questions about Afro-Latinos, they be like, what is that? I be like, you watch Major League Baseball? Yeah. Okay, there
Sammy
you go.
Sosa, but nowadays you don't know what he is. Crystal clear.
This
Girl,
Crystal clear.
Crystal clear.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's the biggest that it gets here in the U.S. as far as representation. Athletes, Major League Baseball, because a lot of Afro-Latinos, that's the main sport in their country. With Dominican Republic, Venezuela, and Puerto Rico, they come here to play professionally, but that's what you see. But as far as acting and all that, you don't see a lot of us. No.
So what do you want people to know about being Afro-Latino and just the misinformation or the lack of information that a lot of our kids and even us growing up, we just didn't know?
That we actually exist. And there's still a lot of people that do not know that we exist. So, for instance, for myself, my experience, when I've had somebody ask me, well, how'd you get the last name Lopez? And I'll tell them, well, my family's from, Peru. And they're like, oh, so you're not real black. Or, or I have a comment, they'll say, oh, well, I thought you were black. And I'll be like, well, I am. I do tell people that.
Black.
Yeah, you're not black. Either I'm not real black, I'm not black, or they'll say, oh, well, you're not black at all. And I'll be like, well, yes, I am. Well, how are you black if your family speaks Spanish and you have the last name Lopez? And sometimes I can be a little smart aleck sometimes. I'll ask them, well, how are you black and you speak speak English? It's the same thing. Your ancestors came here to an English colony.
Right.
My ancestors went somewhere else to a Spanish colony. That's how we basically started speaking that language. It's the same concept.
It's all about colonization. Whoever colonized you, that's the language that you're going to speak. So, like, for instance, my dad was colonized in Africa. My dad was from Togo. His first language was French. It wasn't English, it was French. You got people in Africa who speak German. Whoever colonized you, that's the language that you're going to speak. And I think the knowledge as far as us being African Americans here is that, yeah, we speak English because we're colonized by the English in this country.
Right.
Our real first language is not what was taught to us, but where your origin came from. So I think that's something important that people need to definitely understand.
And a lot of people just don't realize that the slave ships stopped in South America first.
It sure did.
And that's how you were colonized, because you all were dropped off in a Spanish colony.
Exactly.
There you go.
On through the Caribbean, then on to the U.S.
Yeah. Knowledge of the slave trade is definitely
and they're
important.
taking that out of schools, and
Or they're not even teaching.
They're not
Right.
even teaching it in
Right.
school. Yeah.
Y'all found about the slave trade when I entered U of H.
Right.
You didn't like in high school. They never taught you about the ships and how they sent us over here and how they divided us up and who conquered who and this and that nature. Something definitely they need to start implementing, especially I think in elementary school.
I learned that I grew up in Fort Bend ISD, and we actually learned that in Fort Bend ISD.
In elementary school?
In elementary school, we did.
Well, y'all send your kids to Fort Bend ISD.
Yeah,
Apparently they're teaching them African culture.
Yeah, so I grew up
we
in
didn't get that.
Fort Bend ISD, but both of y'all were in
Cy-Fair
ISD.
ISD.
Yeah, so in elementary school, I learned that in elementary
Yeah,
school.
they didn't teach it. I mean, they didn't teach that. They just talked about basically slavery just coming to the U.S.
And
talk about the South and stuff like that. The stuff that we all know.
the American stuff.
But
it
yeah.
goes deeper into that. Like there was a history way before slavery. But definitely, I think for our children, we need to start incorporating that at home. Because we can't depend on the schools to teach us, because they trying to take more stuff out.
Yeah.
So
And that's where we're going. They're just like pretty much erasing history. So it needs to be taught because you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you're from. Not to say that you need to harp on it, but you need to know. Our kids need to know. So
and I also see that this being black is bigger than what we stereotype ourselves as, and depending on what country that you're from. I did some research on my own as far as in Africa, and there was a lot of Spanish influence in Africa. Like the capital of Nigeria is Lagos. Lagos is a Spanish name. It's not African. Y'all Nigerians, y'all can come for me on this podcast. I'm ready for it. Because I know some of you are like, hey, don't you dare say that Lagos is not. Is it African? No, Lagos is actually a Spanish name from the Portuguese. So the slave trade is like very broad. It definitely helps you understand that there's a diaspora of people like us who are just spread out. We're all African. We're all connected. Not to round up what this whole podcast is about, but I think it also will help understand the identity of being Afro-Latino and also bring awareness that, hey, these people do exist and they're no different from us being here in America and us being over there in Africa. It's just that we were all spread out. So we definitely need to have knowledge on that for sure.
Well, okay, speaking of that, expound on the difference between ethnicity, race, and nationality, since we're talking about that.
So ethnicity is pretty much your background. It has to do with basically your culture. That's ethnicity. Where your background is, where it originated from. Nationality, of course, is where you were born or where you're a citizen or naturalized citizen, whatever you want to call it. That's nationality. Race is based on your appearance. So you can be from Peru, where my family's from, but there's white Peruvians. You have the indigenous people who are Inca Indian, and you have us black people and mulattoes who are considered black as well, in my opinion. So it's just your appearance. It's just like here in the United States. You can be American, that's your nationality, but we have Indian people, we have people from Pakistan, we have Vietnamese people, we have, people from all over the world. But they may be born here, so that makes them American. That's their nationality. So that's the difference.
Okay.
So, like you said earlier, you identify yourself as far as your ethnicity, black.
My race is black.
Your race is black, right? Okay. Nationality is Peruvian.
Well, actually, I'm born here.
So American.
Yeah. So I am technically American, but I do consider myself Afro-Latino because it's not like my Latino roots is so far down the line. It's right there. My parents are strictly from that country.
That's interesting, though.
It is.
It's very interesting because it's funny. If you ask like a Japanese person, even Nigerian, they'll be like, I'm Nigerian. Or we'll say I'm Nigerian American, but we won't say our nationality is American because of like what you said, what ethnicity is the way, race is the way that
your appearance.
Look, your appearance. But, you talk to someone who is maybe Chinese American, you ask them, hey, what are you? Oh, I'm Chinese. They may have been born in Tennessee. Right. Because, they look a certain way. They won't necessarily say my nationality is American. Which I always find that, I don't know.
That's true, though.
That is true.
If you ask somebody, they may say, well, yeah, I'm Chinese or I'm Vietnamese. They won't say I'm American.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
I guess they'll.
And that's just breaking down the difference between ethnicity, nationality, and race. You know, because a lot of times it is associated together.
It is.
So a lot of times,
or they think they mean it's the same thing.
It's synonymous with each other. Yeah. It is, and that's why. So
it is.
That's the importance of breaking it down. The difference. It
is. But I will say this in regards to that, though. I would say a lot of applications are doing a lot better because now they break it down. So. There are some applications I'll see will say black, but in parentheses, it'll say not of Hispanic origin. So they break it down. So that way, I guess for, what do they call that? Demographics purposes or whatever. I can say that I'm actually happy about that. Because before it used to be just black, white,
other.
And it's just like, okay, so.
Would you say that's to satisfy people that may not identify? And we can get into that if you want to.
Possibly.
Does that satisfy the ones that, because I have met Afro-Latinos who look blacker than you.
Yeah.
And then you ask them, hey, what do you identify yourself as? And they're like, I'm Latino. And I'm like, no, don't you identify yourself as African or black? And they're like, no, I speak Spanish, so I'm Latino. So, like, how do you feel about that?
I don't like it. I'm gonna keep it real. I don't like it. There's nothing wrong with identifying as Latino because I do identify myself as that. Like I said, Afro-Latina. I don't mind that at all. But I'm not going to basically deny that other part that exists. I'm not gonna sit there and say, I can say, yeah, I'm Latina, but I'm gonna also say that I am black. I'm not gonna say, no, I'm not black. I'm just Latino because, again, there's a difference. There's a difference. The Latino part is the ethnicity. The black is your skin tone, your appearance, pretty much. And there are, unfortunately, a lot of people who are Latinos that do say that. And I think it's sad, to be honest. But it's not always their fault either because if they grew up and they're groomed to think that way, you know what I'm saying? Because let's be real.
They're taught.
Exactly. Let's be real. There are certain countries, and I'm not gonna put them all out there because I don't want to throw shade. But there are certain countries that have a large population of the parents telling their kids that this is what you are, and you don't say that you're black.
And that's because of the stigma of being black.
Because black is not considered beautiful. Right. You know, it's the same thing as here, that the European features is the more favorable or whatever, or you don't. Black is not, it's dark, it's not beautiful and all that stuff. So it's unfortunate, but it does happen.
Yeah. And also for maybe opportunity purposes and just so their kids won't have to go through the suffering that maybe they had to go through as well. Yeah. That's probably why they throw that out there, most likely.
Now I don't want nobody to misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm not saying that all Afro-Latinos think that way.
Let's see what happened.
Not all Afro-Latinos think that way. I'm just saying that there are some that do think that way. I've actually experienced hearing somebody say something like that. But I'm not saying that all of us are like that because we're not. We're not all that way. And I think that's a myth that's thrown out there too. Because I've been told or asked, like, oh, you know, your people, y'all deny y'all's race. Y'all don't really say that you're black. And I'm like, well, according to my family, we do. I can only speak from my experience in my family and what I grew up in. My parents never, ever denied that. My parents will always say black, black. I heard that growing up all my life. So I'm not going to say every Latino family or every country is like that. I'm just saying there are some that do have that thought process, unfortunately.
Okay, so would you say, with you saying that, like what are the practices or rituals or maybe different cultural traditions in your family that help you hold tight to that African part of you, as far as you being Afro-Latino?
I wouldn't say the African part. I guess the music. There's some music that I would hear growing up that had African beats to it, where they call it Afro-Peruano in Spanish, Afro-Peruvian music. So I would say that, and then some of the dances. My mom, for instance, she used to be part of this this group. They called it the Folklore of Peru.
Oh, nice.
Peruano Folclórico. That's what they called it in Spanish. Where it was a group and they would travel and they would do like all these different international festivals where they would perform different dances from their countries. My mom did the dance where it was very African influenced. Where you are doing certain moves, you shaking your ass, you moving your hips and everything. Bertha. Yes, I have pictures, baby. I got pictures at home. But my mom loved it. My mom loves that stuff. But a lot of that stuff,
she incorporated that part into her performance. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say that was my exposure to that.
Interesting. I know with some Afro-Latinos that I know personally, they still practice like the spirituality from their ancestors, like whether it's like the whole Yoruba spirituality or what's that one where Beyonce was introducing everybody?
You talking about Oshun?
Oshun
from the Santeria?
Well, yeah, that's all Yoruba, but yeah. And so I think that kind of helps bring or keep the African culture within the Latino community. So I always found that interesting. But I ain't gonna lie, growing up, I was kind of confused when you see someone that looks like you and they spoke Spanish. I ain't gonna lie, I'm one of those ignorant ones too, because I was like, she looks like me, but why is she speaking Spanish? I remember the first time I heard you speak Spanish, I said, hey, she finally is admitting that she's different. I was like, wow, she's I said, okay, speaking tongues, yes.
Speaking tongues.
Hallelujah. She was just going. I was like, hey, okay, she is Afro-Latino. Yes, ma'am.
I had a lot of friends that were confused when they first met me. When they came to my house is when they got confused.
Do they think that you're Mexican and black? Do you get that a lot?
Yes. No, because when people ask me, that's your last name? Oh, you half Mexican? I'm like, no, I'm not Mexican. So how you get that last name? Yeah, I'm like, I'm not Mexican. But also, I have to be mindful. Look where we live.
Yeah,
in Texas, majority of the Latinos here are Mexicans. But that wouldn't happen if I lived in Florida or New York or Jersey.
Right. They would know.
They would know because there's a lot of people that look like me, Spanish last names and everything. They have a lot of Spanish communities from other countries in those states.
Right.
But
especially
it's just
New York.
Yeah.
Heavy Cuban community.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, also, do you feel like there is a issue of colorism within the Afro-Latino community?
Absolutely.
Okay. You want to talk more into that?
Yeah. So it's weird. I'm going to talk about the country that my parents come from. From what I know, what I was told. We, like I said, we embraced a lot of that African culture and everything, the dances, the music and all that stuff. And you hear the word black, black, black. But I've also been told that there's a lot of black people from my parents' country that try to mix and mingle with others outside of black so their kids can look a certain way or have a certain type of hair. So it's kind of like, yes, I embrace my black roots, but at the same time, ooh, don't get with that person because look how your kid's going to turn out. You don't want them to be too dark or you don't want them to have nappy hair.
That's
So,
like,
yeah.
that's a universal issue.
That is.
It is.
That happens over here. Sure, that even happens in Nigeria. Don't marry someone that's too black.
Yeah.
You want our children to be sin.
Yeah.
And not hidden at night. So it happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, it definitely exists. It exists. And it's like, the better your hair is or your skin tone. Now, you don't have to be high yellow. I wouldn't say that. But it's kind of like, oh, that makes you pretty. If you're darker and you got nappier hair, okay, you're not that attractive. But what's so strange is, in my parents' country, a lot of the indigenous men love them some black women over there. They get with the black women.
Oh, for real?
They do.
Oh, let me go move to Peru. I like some Peru.
They do. So, but yeah, there's colorism that does exist. It does.
So look, it's a universal thing. I
It
feel.
is. Oh yeah, it definitely is. From even like India or
Oh yeah.
it's just very heavy. Colorism is just an issue that is universal.
It
That
really is.
people need to be. There needs to be more education on it and more representation of different skin tones, different hair types.
And y'all don't remember to
yes.
check our last podcast. We talked about colorism. I hope y'all checking out our old stuff. We talked about it. It's very funny. I'm sorry, not funny, but we talked about our experiences on both ends about colorism. So definitely check that last podcast out.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, I'm glad that we had some more insight of what it is to be Afro-Latino. Is there anything else that you want for us to be enlightened about, or that you want to share, or any experiences?
Be open-minded.
Yeah.
Be open-minded. Please do. If somebody tells you that they're Afro-Latino, or if you see that their skin tone is darker and they're telling you they have a Spanish last name or their family comes somewhere, please don't tell them they're not black. Just don't. It's very offensive. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. It is. It's offensive.
I think it's just really just say what it is, girls.
It's ignorant. It's ignorant and it's offensive. Don't do it.
Y'all, okay, so, we're from Houston. For all those who are watching us from other cities and states, hopefully. So, we're from Houston. And in Houston, we have the rodeo, right? And so, during the rodeo that we have each and every year, we have Black Heritage Day. So, they bring in African-American artists. So, I think it was maybe 2-3 years ago, Cardi B was invited to the rodeo to represent for Black Heritage Day, and it was a big
It was a huge
hoopla.
mess. Yes.
They were
It
saying, "Oh,
was.
this girl's not even black. Why y'all have a Hispanic girl?"
And that's the ignorance of it. That's the ignorance behind it because people do
it's
not
black.
know. Hell, y'all were dropped off before we were. But people
on
just
it.
don't know that. Like,
That
y'all
part.
were dropped off first. And then we came into this ragged ass
But
country.
we're not black enough. We're not black. We're not real black.
So, I mean, it's just people are just not educated to it.
If you don't fit that stereotypical African American stereotype, it's just like you just don't fit the bar. Like I just never understood that. Like what makes somebody black?
Right.
I always thought it was a color, not necessarily like what your culture is.
Right,
who you are. I don't
right.
know. I just find it just mind-boggling. But how y'all gonna try to tell somebody what they are? And I'm black.
Right.
I had somebody ask me, speaking of that, I had somebody ask me, well, did you eat like chitlins? Did y'all eat soul food and all that stuff? And
Y'all didn't know what that was?
No.
Well,
does that make me less black because I didn't eat soul food?
Right.
Well, they wasn't making chitlins in Peru.
No,
Right.
we wasn't.
So, I mean, that's again where you were dropped
Yeah.
off.
They had
Right.
tripe, though, and cow's heart, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Nah, I ain't never ate no cow.
What
But I've never eaten chitterlings either.
Chitterlings.
I've never eaten pig's feet either.
is
We ain't doing
chitlins?
that.
Ain't that the...
Intestines of the hog.
That's what they eating?
Booty noodles is what it's called.
And it stinks so bad. I've never
I call
tasted
it booty noodles.
That's what chitlins is?
Yeah. you know
Yes,
that?
girl. I've never eaten it.
Yeah.
Pig's feet. I've never eaten
Neck
that.
bone.
Huh? But why y'all eating something with the meat's not... Go to Nigeria and do them gabi.
Because those
Where's
were the
meat?
those were the meat scraps that
That's what they were
slaves-
given.
That's what
Yes,
they
yes. So they made feast of what was provided to
And so
them
it became
from the
pretty
scraps.
much it became pretty much a delicacy or something over.
I didn't
time.
watch it yet, but I hear it's good. There's something on Netflix called
Eat the hog, or the hog ate somebody.
High on the Hog.
High
Is it
on the Hog.
High-
Oh.
and that's a different term too. High on the Hog. That's like more of an African American term,
it was
but high
so
on the
good.
hog. But so they talked about
I
different
saw it. It's
delicacies.
It really, in a weird way, it kind of illustrated what the slave trade the transatlantic slave trade looked like, and how everybody is tied in. Okay, y'all really need to watch it. When I tell you, it's very emotional as well. You think he's just talking about food, but it was so much emotion that was into it. Like, this guy went back to Africa and found out like the different dishes that were made over there, and then how it came to Haiti, and then how it came to New Orleans, and then how it came to Texas. And it's a very emotional journey, and you're actually watching this guy go through this journey, and it kind of gives you a nice illustration of what the slave trade looked like, and how it shows how we are all tied together. You know, as far as the foods, especially I noticed in the Latino community, you could talk about that. What like foods are like big in your community as far as like Peru? And me and her could kind of jump in and be like, hey, we eat something similar to that.
Of course, fried plantain.
Do we not eat plantain in Nigeria? Go on.
We have a whole bunch of different types of potatoes. Potatoes are really big in Peru. Whole bunch of different types. Whole bunch of different types of corns. We have our own ceviche. I know people, when they say ceviche, you eat it at a Mexican restaurant, but ours is very different. We make ours differently. We have some things that are similar to the Caribbean too. Of course, the plantains. We have our own type of empanadas and stuff like that. But I know plantains, y'all ate that in Africa too.
Yeah, like everything is just so much tied together. In Nigeria, we have jollof rice, right? And I noticed with the Latino community, the rice is almost exactly the same.
There's different ones.
What rice y'all have in Louisiana? What is it called? What? Y'all, I'm going through like menopause. Like, I'm forgetting like simple stuff. The rice.
I know.
Jambalaya.
But jambalaya is a dish, though.
Yeah, that's a dish.
Yeah, it's filled with rice, but it's
got sausage.
and all kind of.
But it's so similar though. I just noticed that some of our foods, even though they might not be exactly alike, there's still a tie to like
because it evolved.
Yeah.
So it's just the evolvement of you making it your own cultural. Like this is what we like. People from Louisiana, this is what we like: spicy food. We like but y'all's rice is a little different, and y'all's rice is a little different. So it's just
we have a couple of different rices, but our main rice is basically white rice, but it's not just plain white rice. It's garlic flavored rice.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Garlic
And some
flavored
countries have
rice.
their own specific that they don't really expound on other countries as well.
Yeah.
Right?
like Thai rice, like Vietnamese food. Their rice is different from ours.
Very different.
Yeah, so it's just the evolving of how you make yours.
High on the Hog. Y'all need to watch that. It's so good. It's really
I
good.
watched like the first episode, but I didn't finish it.
Yeah, I saw it. I cried. It's very emotional because it's like you see this journey and like how he feels a tie to like back to his motherland. He's African American, but he just goes through these different emotions. It's just going from Africa. And he sees the holding cells where they had the slaves and stuff like that. It's just watch it. It's really good. But so Peruvian food. What else are you going to bless us with next week when we come over to your house? Because I would like to eat some Peruvian food.
We coming over your house next week?
Yeah. Tell us the food.
She making some. Well, one of my favorite ones that my mom makes, actually I have two. That's papa rellena. Mm-hmm. So what it is, papa is potato. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's stuffed with meat and stuff in there.
Oh.
So that's one of my favorites, is the bomb. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the other Spanish countries have their own version of it too. Mm-hmm. We just have different flavorings to the meat. And then pastel de choclo, which is pretty much kind of like cream corn, but it's not just cream corn out of a can. They literally get corn, they, blend it and put other spices and everything. And then they saute some meat and everything, and they put it,
that sounds good.
They layer it. Mm-hmm. And then you bake it in the oven. The bomb.
So that's what we're going to have next week. What else we eat?
The bomb.
You
just going to tell Miss Lopez to just...
I'm going to come over. Good afternoon, Miss Lopez. Oh, hey. Yeah, I'm Martha's friend. So I smell something cooking. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So tell us something about the traditions that y'all have in your family.
A main tradition, we do Christmas differently.
Yeah.
Okay. You've experienced it.
Yeah.
So we're really big on Christmas Eve. Mm-hmm. Christmas Eve is our big holiday. So Christmas Eve, you get together with your family later on that night, probably around 9-ish or whatever. Hang out, have some finger foods.
Very late.
Yeah, drink.
I was like, you want me to come over what time?
Yeah.
My baby's sleeping.
Yeah. So some drinks, conversation, just kicking it. You just kicking it. And then at midnight, stroke of midnight, which turns into Christmas Day, that's when you wish each other a Merry Christmas, you open gifts, and that's when you have your Christmas dinner late at night.
Nice. And that was fun. That was a good time.
Yeah, and that's our tradition. That's our tradition from our country. All of our family does that. And then Christmas Day, either you want to go to a family member's house and go kick it over there, or you just chill at home and do nothing.
Because y'all have already had y'all celebration.
Exactly. So every once in a while, like one of my cousins or somebody be like, well, everybody's coming over on Christmas Day, so... You rest up, of course, because everybody's staying up late, and then everybody gets together probably like late afternoon the next day and gather together at somebody's house. Or if you just want to chill at home and do nothing. But
I wasn't invited.
You weren't living here at that time.
I know, y'all. I was living in Dallas, so they talk about experience and stuff. And Paulette just looks blank. I lived in Dallas for 5 years and missed out on a lot.
You weren't here at that time.
I missed out on a lot. Okay, so that's why I'm over here looking like... But no,
it's a good time. I've always loved that tradition. I love it, and I'm gonna keep it going even if when my parents are no longer here. That's something that I want to keep going.
So what about wedding traditions? Any other traditions? Because we went to a wedding last weekend that was full of tradition, and this could be for another podcast too. We could talk about this at another podcast about African Americans and some of our traditions being stolen from us, and we just are not educated to the traditions that Africans had or that we had in Africa, and it just didn't translate to us and here in America. So a lot of traditions we don't have. We just y'all coming over at 12 o'clock to eat for Christmas. We don't have a lot of traditions that we partake in. So do y'all have any wedding traditions? Because y'all do quinceañeras too, right?
We do.
But wedding traditions first.
Wedding, I've never experienced any real tradition in a wedding. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. What I do know in our culture, because our main religion is Catholicism. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times they'll have a full-on mass during the wedding. However, us here who have come here, we don't do that no more. Because, no shade, but we're not trying to be in church all day, okay?
You
get married. We get married. But the reception is a party. Party. My family, for a long time now.
Your family just parties. I just come over there, meet me at my aunt's house. I'm your aunt is swirling me around. Your cousin throwing me over here. I don't know who I'm dancing with. So your family just parties.
Yeah, they just like to party, okay? And if you're gonna have a wedding, a lot of times if you're gonna have a hall rented, please have that hall till 2-3 o'clock in the morning if you in our culture, because you're gonna be there till that
till late.
You're gonna be there till late. I remember growing up as a kid, and this is something from our country too. where the adults will gather inside and they party, they drink, they dance, and the kids would always be outside playing the whole night. And that goes on in my parents' country as well. So I remember growing up, we did that. I remember us not getting home till dawn when I was a kid. Any family party we had, you're not going to get home till like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. That's just what it was.
That's one thing I loved about your family. Like when we were in high school, you're like, I'm going to my family. I'll be over there. Give me about an hour. I'll be over there. I'm about to go to my cousin's house. I'm on my way. Okay, all right. Let me take a shot. I'll be there. Yes. Just ready to go. Yeah.
I think that's more, I don't know. I feel like the only people that don't do that is in America. Because like if you go to like Europe, their weddings be lasting like till the next day. Especially Nigeria. Shit. She will tell you what happened. But it didn't start until 2 hours. When it comes to the clock, I think the clock is more of a American thing.
It was a big. And it's not that I haven't been.
Cultures.
It's not like that I haven't been to a Nigerian wedding before, but I think it was the first young person's Nigerian wedding because it was we had a blast. I mean,
it was fun.
It was.
But like I noticed like cultures when it comes to celebrations, we don't believe clock is not of the essence. Time is not of the essence.
But
it's like
see,
you're enjoying.
My time is so.
Yeah, it's like, but if you go to the American wedding, it's like, okay, the wedding starts at 2, and it does.
And it starts at 2. Yeah, it starts at 2. Reception by 4:30.
Yeah, look at the camera and pause so people can see this.
Yes.
The wedding starts at 2.
Yes.
No shade to nobody. 2 o'clock.
Yes.
And then the wedding ends at 10 because the next day people gotta go to work.
Yes.
Or go to church or live their regular lives. Culture people, they will have a wedding from Friday until next
There'll
week.
be a whole weekend.
A whole week.
And if the hall shuts down and y'all gotta leave,
they
go to somebody's house
yes.
and keep the party going.
Yes.
They keep it going. That's what happened in my brother's wedding. I think they shut down the wedding reception around 11 o'clock and everybody went to my parents' house. And they stayed there till the next morning partying.
Damn. Well,
so
there you have it.
And then the quinceañera. You didn't have a quinceañera.
I didn't have one because I didn't want one.
But who did in your family? I remember you having a family member with a quinceañera.
My niece did.
Okay, it was hers then.
Yes, she had one, and we've had a couple others, but yeah, my niece did.
So it's not really big in your family, or
it's not big, and we're not really big on what I would say pomp and pageantry.
Okay, gotcha.
My family. I'm not saying other families from our culture is not, because a lot of people are, but my family isn't. But hers was the bomb. Hers was a beautiful hall. She had her big dress.
I remember seeing the pictures.
Yeah, it was gorgeous.
It was here.
Gorgeous. No,
it was in
LA.
Oh, okay.
It was in Los Angeles.
Pictures.
Okay. Yeah, it was in Los Angeles. But yeah, she had one not too long ago.
Nice.
Well, a few years ago. But yeah.
All right. Well, there y'all have it. What it is to be Afro-Latina
in America.
So hey, in the comments, if y'all have questions, please put the questions down below so we can have our wonderful guest here, Ms. Lopez, or anybody else who is Afro-Latino. If you want to put your experiences and like how it is to be an American and Afro-Latino, write them down so we can all learn from each other. Like, we're all here to experience. That's what this whole podcast is about. We discuss, we learn, and we take in the information that was shared today. So thank you so much, Ms. Lopez, for coming on our podcast. So,
and as always, we're going to clink.
Clank.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us at P Square Sips and Convo.